Being here, Sameer. I really
Yeah, I
appreciate
can.
how transparent you've been this whole time, and especially your story about the 2017 Series A failure, which I feel like we learned the most from. Um, I'm building a mentorship matching for startup teams right now, and really interested in how you recruited tutors, especially now that you have, it seems like three markets, like general public, organizations and kids. It seems like all of them would both require very different recruitment and vetting of tutors. So wondering if you can kind of talk through like how do you recruit and vet for each of those? Does it change? And if needed, how do you like take people off the platform, that sort of thing?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot here, and actually, like, it's interesting. Like, we've historically been like a demand constrained marketplace, so we can kind of grow as fast as we can grow in demand. And so, you heard me talk a lot about how we've grown in all these different markets, and I didn't talk as much about supply side. The supply side's super interesting, but it's generally been like less hard for us. Like, I think in the very early days we would like, post to jobs boards, job boards, things like Craigslist, just like super scrappy stuff to just like get the few, our first few tutors in. But it's a really cool job. Like you get to like talk to interesting people around the world. You can work from home. You can work whatever hours you want. And so honestly, actually, a lot of our growth on the tutor side has come through like word of mouth over the years. Like we've typically had a wait list of people who really want to join Cambly. And it's also easier because one side of the marketplace is paying, the other one's getting paid. And so I feel like there's some inherent things that are easier to recruit on the side that's getting paid. And so, and actually in terms of those three verticals, like organizations actually kind of shares supply. Like we kind of use the same pool of tutors as we do for like end consumers. So that's actually like a single shared supply. Kids is a different set. But we've actually, because we grew our adult product so much before we launched kids, we actually had like an enormous pool of tutors that we could draw from. And so a lot of our kids tutors actually have just come from like the sort of the long list of adult tutors that we collected over the years. Um, yeah, I don't know if I have any like I'm trying to think of like what's one of the useful tips and tricks I could share here. I think we've just spent a lot less energy and effort on the tutor side. I think the one thing I will say is like because we did it like gradually over so many years, like I don't mean to say that the supply side of our marketplace is easy. It's definitely not. But we just like got really, really good. Like in terms of like managing it, I think there's like a lot of interesting stuff there where because like my co-founder and I are both software engineers, we just like we automated every time anything like we do stuff manually initially, and then anytime anything got like annoying or repetitive, we would just be like, okay, how do I write some code to automate this? And so we've, we've built a lot of systems that allow us to like very efficiently manage like an army of tutors, and I think it's allowed us to scale up super efficiently. Dorothy, who John mentioned earlier, I think helped us build a lot of those systems, and we've scaled the supply side a ton, really, really efficiently. I know that's not exactly your question, but I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there about like if you kind of do things carefully and you kind of study the supply side and automate things and build like better and better processes. I think it's a competitive advantage for us for how efficiently we've been able to scale the supply.
Sweet, thanks. Maybe one
Yeah,
quick follow-up. Do you have to
yeah,
build,
sure.
have you had to build anything very intentionally for tutor retention, or that kind of just like grew as you built better tools?
Um, so yeah, tutor retention is really good. So a lot of it, I think, just the way that our setup worked, like people stuck around. I think it's helpful that the tutors tend to build a set of regulars and they have a relationship with those regulars, and so they're kind of building like their book of business on Cambly, and I think there's retentive properties of the relationships that are built on both sides. Like students stick around because they have their favorite tutor or tutors, and tutors stick around because they have their set of regular students. So you could think a little bit about in your marketplace, like how to foster those relationships to like keep both sides on the platform. I think like obviously like making money is a good way to retain the supply side of your marketplace. And so like, I think we've built things that have effectively allowed our best tutors to like build their business faster. And so I think it's valuable to not think of your like supply as like uniform. Like there's always going to be like a bell curve and a distribution. And so I think things you can do to like make sure like the best suppliers in your marketplace have a really good experience. And so, very concretely, like you've got this, this pipe or this fire hose of demand, like where do you point it basically? And if you just point it like uniformly across your supply, that's going to like, spread the retentive properties of that demand evenly. But if you can point it in a more targeted way where like the best supply gets the best experience, you're just going to end up building like a better marketplace because your best supply will stick around. Your less good supply will naturally fall off. And you mentioned kind of like removing people, like we have processes to do that. You can have students report tutors and we can review the incident and so forth. So there's ways to kind of cut the like lowest performers on the supply side. But I think there's a lot of interesting stuff about like, not just like, you look at the distribution, you're not just chopping off the like bottom, but you're also figuring out how do I get the top really happy? Because I think you'll just keep better supply, and that supply is great at teaching students. You'll have a better product. Like in our, I always describe Cambly. Cambly's not about the app; it's about like the tutor. Like everything else is a plumbing to get you to talking with a tutor. And so I think our product is very much like our tutors. And so the better your supply can be, the better experience it's going to be for students. Cool. Yeah, great question, Connie. And thanks for the follow-up, because I feel like I got you a little more meat to think about there.